Communication process. Purpose of communication in business. Communication is not about the way the message is transmitted. It isn't even about the message itself. Communication is about understanding and how it is mutually transmitted between a sender and a receiver. That said, if there is no such mutual understanding, then communication is not happening. The importance of communication in business cannot be overstated, and as such, it needs to be effective for the business to run smoothly. In fact, communication is an essential aspect of the management of a business. The basic functions of a manager cannot be done if there is no effective communication between the manager and the employees. The kind of communication that happens in business is known as business communication, and it involves the flow of information back and forth between the higher ups and the lower downs as well as side to side. What that means basically is that information will flow down ranks within a company as well as across them. Managers need to communicate with supervisors who need to communicate with their teams. Colleagues need to communicate with each other. All of these needs to happen seamlessly or else havoc and chaos will result in the business. Organizations are growing larger and larger by the day, with some of the largest in the world having hundreds of thousands of employees. With the growing size of an organization, the number of hierarchies to be observed, as well as the complexity of the organizational structure, only increase. In the process, the job of managing the organization becomes harder and harder. In a large organization, perhaps even more so than in a small one. Effective business communication is necessary to direct the day to day activities of the organization. It makes it possible to get immediate feedback and to avoid any communication is not supposed. It makes it possible to get immediate feedback and to avoid any misunderstandings that may arise. Communication is not supposed to just happen within the organization either. It should also happen without it. The organization should be able to communicate with the society around it to make the society run in a better way that benefits all of the parties involved. For any team, organization, or society to grow, communication gaps should be filled in before they grow too big. When it comes to business communication, it is all about goals. In that sense, it is goal oriented. When you communicate, you should do so with a certain goal in mind. For example, if the company has a set of rules, regulations, and policies, then it should seek to communicate them to the employees of the organization so they know what is expected of them. If you want your business to uphold certain values and principles as it relates to and to the society at large, then you should find an effective way to communicate these values and principles to your employees so they know how to talk to their customers the next time they interact with them. If you don't know what the goal of your communication is, then you are not communicating anything. We call that noise. Business communication also happens across channels. We have come a long way as the human race in terms of the channels we use to communicate with each other. With the development of language, much of communication was oral, with humans passing knowledge and information to other humans through the mouth. Sometimes we would use actions, whether through body language or through the use of other methods, such as smoke signals. However, most of communication was restricted to oral communication. With the invention of writing, we had yet another channel of communication, which turned out to be a little more permanent than speech. Information could now be recorded for posterity, and knowledge could be passed down from father to son without the loss of accuracy. Of course, we have come a long way since and have developed many other channels along the way, each proving to have major advantages over its predecessors. In business, in particular, there has been a kind of rapid evolution in terms of the channels of communication we use. We started out with just paperwork and calls on landline telephones. Now we have our smartphones, email, video calls, social media, satellite communications, specialist teamwork software, and so on. We are even starting to explore the use of technologies like virtual and augmented reality as communication channels. The future is bright, needless to say. It is so secret that communication is growing at a rapid in fact that we are at the danger of forgetting just why communication is so important in business. The purpose of business communication can be summarized into a few main functions. Motivation. Managers need to communicate to employees the tasks they need to carry out, the timeline of these tasks, and the manner in which the task should be carried out. However, communication is not just about allowing them to do this, it is also about allowing them to do it in a way that motivates the employees to work harder and better. A good communicator knows how to lace their message with just the right amount of motivation to make the receiver genuinely want to accept the message. The sharing of information. Communication represents the cogs in the wheels of an organization that allow information to flow from one place to another. In order for decisions to be made more effectively within the organization, there should first be a smooth flow of information. That way, the major decision makers know that the decisions they are making have taken all of the facts into consideration. Socialization. Business is not all about work. Sometimes it is also about play and getting people to open up and simmer down. Communication helps with the socialization aspect of business as well. It is a normal part of human nature that we will always want to open up and communicate when we are in the presence of other individuals, whether it is regular banter between employees or socialization for the purpose of networking at business parties. Communication makes it possible for business people to talk to each other casually in social settings and is involved in creating goodwill in business communication. Control. One of the key functions of a manager is control. Typically, a manager will want to control the behaviors and actions of the employees within an organization. However, these employees are not robots and they cannot be controlled or be coerced to do anything. That is where communication comes in. To get your employees to do any things, you have to communicate what you want to your employees. Communication brings business alive while you are thinking about the bottom line for your business. Think as well about communication. You may find that communication is the crucial factor in deciding the future of your business. As well as it is effective, everything else will work out well. The communication process involves the sender transmission of a message through a selected channel and the receiver. Although the process of communication is more than the sum total of these elements, understanding them can help explain what happens when one person tries to express an idea to others. Number 1. Sender. The process of communication begins with a sender, the person who transmits a message, the branch manager explaining new product lines to the sales force, a computer programmer explaining a new program to a coworker, accountant giving financial report to its superior are all senders of communication. A message is a signal that triggers the response of a receiver. Messages could be verbal, written or spoken, or non-verbal such as appearance, body language, silence, sounds, yawn, sigh. In coding, the sender must choose certain words or non-verbal methods to send an international message. This activity is called encoding. While encoding a message, one needs to consider what contents to include, how the receiver will interpret it, and how it may affect one's relationship. A simple thankful message will be relatively easy, in contrast to inform 200 employees of a bad news about salary cut or bid on engineering plans to construct a rupees 50 crore industrial building will require much more complicated, carefully planned messages. Number 4. Channel. How will you send your message? Should it be sent by an electronic word processing system to be read on the receiver's screen, printed word, or through graphic symbol on paper, or via the medium of sound? Briefly, should one write or speak, the choice of channel or medium, written on oral, is influenced by the interrelationships between the sender and the receiver. It also depends upon the urgency of the message being sent. Beside, one may consider factors such as importance, number of receivers, cost, and amount of information. Generally, it has been observed that if the message requires an immediate answer, an oral channel may be the better choice. But if the message contains complicated details and figures, or if its subject requires filling for future reference, our written communication is necessary. Furthermore, whether your message receiver is inside or outside your organization affects your choice of the medium. For internal communication, written media may be memos, reports, bulletins, job descriptions, posters, employee manuals, or even electronic bulletin boards. Oral communication may be staff meeting reports, face to face discussion, speeches, audio, tapes, telephone chats, teleconference, or even video tapes. Another oral channel through unplanned by the sender is the grapevine, through which news and rumors often travel quickly. External written communication media may be letters, reports, proposals, telegrams, fax, electronic mails, telex, postcards, contracts, ads, brochures, catalogs, news release, etc. You may communicate orally, face to face, by telephone, or by speeches in solo or in panel situations. personally before groups or via teleconference, video conference, or TV. A receiver is any person who notices and attaches some meaning to a message. In the best circumstances, a message reaches its intended receiver with no problems. In the confusing and imperfect world of business, however, several problems can occur. The message may never get to the receiver. It might be sent but buried under a mountain of files on the reception's desk. If the message is oral, the listener might forget it. Even worse, a message intended for one receiver might be intercepted by someone else on your colleague may take your friendly joke in an offensive manner. Similarly, your boss' suggestion may be taken to be an order by your example. A competitor might see a copy at your correspondence to a customer. Number 6. Decoding. Even if the message reaches intact to its intended receiver, there is no guarantee that it will be understood as the sender intended it to be. The receiver must still decode it, attaching meaning to the words or symbols. It may be noted that decoding is not always accurate. It depends upon individual experiences. The problem is that all of us do not have identical experiences with the subject or symbols chosen by the sender. There are greater chances of misinterpretation. Personal basis may intervene. Each receiver tries to perceive the intended meaning of the sender's idea in his or her own receptor mechanism. Feedback. Ultimately, the receiver reacts or responds to the communication sent by the sender. The response could be based on clear interpretation of the symbols sent, or it could be whatever the response of a receiver to a sender is. It is called feedback. Some feedback is non-verbal smiles, sigh, nods, and so on. Sometimes it is oral, as when you react to a colleague's ideas with questions or comments. Feedback can also be written, as when you respond to a co-worker's memo. In many cases, so message can also be a feedback. Failure to answer a letter or to return a phone call can suggest how the non-communicative person feels about the sender. Feedback is an important component of the communication process because ultimately the success or failure of the communication is